Hello, everybody. Welcome to the African Queen Mo Show. We are live. Welcome again. I say we, although I'm alone. I'm expecting somebody to join us, and we're going to continue with our discussion. I'm coming to you live from Nairobi, Kenya, and we are discussing what has been going on over the past 24 hours. I just cannot even imagine what's happening because really, tumepelekwa mbio, we've been carried very, very, very fast, And I really thank God because we are still here. We are alive. One of the nice things, though, that has come out of all of this, because as you know, that my pet peeve is women. Yeah. I am so happy to hear that this lady called Schophie Maverick Aoko has actually been found alive. That's some reason to celebrate, people. Let's not be too negative. We were told by the president to stop negativity. So let's start on the positive note, right? Let's start by saying thank God, that this young woman has been found alive. I'm really looking forward to know about her specific situation in terms of her health and stuff like that. I pray that she was not tortured. I pray that they had mercy on her. And I also thank the Chief Justice, for making sure, that she spoke about this issue. Sorry, I moved my screen. Sometimes I move my screen because sometimes I realize, oops, doesn't look quite right, does it? Yeah. So anyway, in 24 hours, we have been treated to crazy politics in Kenya. And I don't know who can survive it. Yeah. So karibuni sana karibuni sana kwa African Queen Mo Show. Leo ni Friday, and I'm happy to have you all here. I'm really happy to have you all here. Yeah, nimefurahia kukua hapa na nyinyi na nina hope kwamba tutaenjoy hii session. Niliwaambia kwamba sijui Kiswahili yangu pahali inapotea. Sasa ile nataka kuongea hapa kwa screen. Na sijui ni kwa nini. Sijui kama ni nervousness, sijui kama ni kuogopa. Kwa sababu hii Kiswahili yangu si mbaya sana, by the way. Normally I can communicate in Kiswahili quite well, but when I come on screen, inaisha kabisa. Lakini leo tunataka tuongea mambo ya 24 hours. DP Gachagua ametolewa na DP Kindiki ameingizwa. Okay. Sasa we have two deputy presidents we were looking at within the space of 24 hours. And now our focus has to be straight on Dr. Kithure Kindiki with his lovely wife today. It was nice to see him, actually. It was nice to see that he's a married man, and it was quite interesting to see him trying to hold hands. Did you guys watch him trying to hold hands with his wife? I thought that was hilarious, actually. I thought it was hilarious. But also, I think it's just the way. Maybe they were not used to this, Kama mtu hajazoea kushika mpenzi wake mkono, usijaribu in public. Wewe just, march in front and you just operate according to the way you normally operate. Otherwise, it looks really awkward. But anyway, today was a very nerve-wracking day, I think, for them. And I don't blame the poor lady because it's not easy to come into those shoes so quickly. Yeah. So today we're going to be talking about, what's happening. First of all, let me ask you a question, guys. How are you doing? Please come into the live stream. You can see the comment section on the right. There's a link where you can actually find me. Today we're starting a little bit later. It's a Friday. And there's just been too much going on. So I'll be with you as much as I can, maybe over the next 1 hour, and hope that, you stick around with me and that will invite other people. The link is right over there. Yeah. If you are like on YouTube, all you have to do, you go into YouTube, African Queen Mo Cardiff. Yeah. African Queen Mo Cardiff. It's written over there. Yeah. Then you go into just type in there and then you'll see, touch my picture on there, the one with the fluffy hair, and then you'll actually find it, looking like this. I don't know if you can see it. Here it is. Yeah. Here it is. News in brief. Here it is. Yeah. News brief. Impeached and new deputy president sworn in. That's where I am. So for many of you guys, I know you have, I'm trying to bring it back in here. I know you have a hard time trying to get in and find me on YouTube, but that's how you do it. You just, go in, African Queen Mo. This is the page, African Queen Mo Cardiff on your phone. And then you touch my picture here. You touch my picture at the top, and then you'll find me in there. And that's where it is. It says news in brief, and you'll see a clock. That's the only thing I can do for you right now, because I've been trying to actually share this link. I will share it around with a few of my friends right now as we wait for more of you guys to come on board. So how have you been doing? One of the things I've noticed in Kenya, this is not even talking about the impeachment, but I've noticed actually that there are a lot of people right now who seem to be a little bit stressed out. Watu wako na ma-stress, hata ukiona vile wanaendesha gari, hey, it's kind of scary, Vile watu wanaendesha gari, people drive cars so fast and so dangerously on our roads. And I wonder to myself, what is going on? Why are people so stressed out, Why are people so stressed out? I think today, for example, today nilikuwa naendesha gari leo, and nikapatana na lorry ambaye inakuja this way, alafu there's a matatu also overtaking me behind me this way, and they're all in a rush, and I'm here in the middle, and I'm wondering to myself, what is going on? Why are people driving so recklessly and carelessly? Yeah, why? Yeah, sorry about my shiny lipstick today. And then I also heard from a cousin of mine who told me the same thing today. Yeah. My cousin, yeah, aliniambia, my God, my God. Today, she came home and she was praying to arrive home safely because people were driving so dangerously around Lavington. In Lavington, where there's so many cars, today is when? Friday, there's so many cars and people are still reckless on the road. Very reckless. Again, even more sad is that actually, and very unfortunately, I heard the news that a very good friend of mine was actually, a very good friend of mine's, a partner, was husband actually, was killed in a, in a hidden drive accident. He was crossing the road and he was killed. I tell you guys, there's a problem. There's a spirit in our country. We have to pray against it. This spirit of, unaliving people driving recklessly, people not minding about other people's lives. Come on, guys. Let's be careful on our roads. Let's flash people, those people who are driving carelessly on the roads. We should flash them and we should warn them to stop that. Stop driving like that. So maybe, as we wait for our good friend, Susan, who is our lawyer, to come on board, yeah, let's wait. And actually, let me invite her and let her know that I'm on board. I don't think she knows that I'm here. But as we wait for Susan to come on board, let me ask you guys, what did you think of today's swearing-in ceremony? Did you enjoy it? What did you think about it? Oh, hi, Francis. Hey, Francis, you're there. Kenya will one day burn. Oops. Not because the ordinary Kenyan wants, but our institutional failure will be. Oh, Susan is waiting in the studio. Let me let her in, first of all. Our institutional failure will be a key enabler. We cannot disregard laws and expect to remain peaceful. Wow. Oh, my God. I agree with you, Francis, completely. You're my good friend on Facebook. And I'm so glad to see my Facebook friends on here. Daniel Maora on Facebook or YouTube. Either Daniel Maora, we're either on Facebook or YouTube. But actually, if you look and you can see the link above there, StreamYard. Can you see StreamYard? At the very top, go at the very top, scroll to the top and you'll see StreamYard. And that way you'll be able to come and join us in studio. Let's talk. Francis Mohoho brings up a very important point about the issue of our laws, our constitution. Do you guys feel as if our constitution was respected, that the constitution ruled the day? Did it win or did it lose this time? Yeah. What are your views about this? Because we have a lawyer over here, Susan, who's going to bring us up to speed about, where we are now. What happened in the last 24 hours? We lost the deputy president and gained a new one. That's how quickly we are made to think in Kenya, on our feet. Yeah. And I feel like, all of us are really stressed, to be honest. Most of us definitely felt stressed. On a personal note, I can tell you my personal view. My personal view is that I feel that this was really rushed. I feel personally that it was rushed. And I always worry about, that statement by Senior Counsel Elijah, where he said, justice, what was it, Susan? Justice? Let me allow Susan to...
Hurried is justice miscarried.
Miscarried.
Yeah, justice hurried
is justice miscarried. I don't know why I feel, I feel a bit uncomfortable about, let's just use the word uncomfortable. I feel uncomfortable about the way everything went. Just like the way Francis Mohogo speaks here and says, yeah, justice hurried is justice miscarried. Do you feel like justice was hurried and miscarried in the process, or do you feel like justice carried the day? And why? Why? Okay, was justice carried or miscarried in this particular case? Yesterday we were treated to the impeachment process, and I think I don't even know what to say about it. All I can say is that Mr. Gachagua and his lawyers did their very best. But in the end, I think I saw that the 3 empaneled judge bench, their ruling was based on a very different reason, which was the fact that they stated that the DP position cannot remain open, and that the Deputy President position cannot remain open because they actually have specific duties that they're supposed to carry out, and they can only be carried out by the Deputy President. And for that reason, that particular post cannot remain open. It's not an open-ended thing. Even if there were arguments to the fact that they had 74 days in which they could, 74 days total to use, the fact is that these judges ruled on a totally different issue that I felt was kind of like outside of the discussion to some extent. I think Susan will clarify that for us, because it was quite surprising to hear what they said. I think that there were very many angry people. We must not discount the fact that there were very many disappointed people. And I was happy that the outgoing Deputy President Gachagua called on peace, called on everybody to hold their horses and, not to react, not to burn the country. It brings to light before I allow Susan to speak, it reminded me of, for those of you who read the Bible, and this is not about preaching, it's just a story. There's a Bible story about 2 women who were claiming ownership of a child. Do you remember that story, Susan? I think it's in the Old Testament. There were 2 women who were brought before a king, and they were both claiming ownership of that child. And the king decided, okay, since both of you cannot agree on the child, on who's the owner of the child, then why don't you cut up that child in half and share the child? Yeah, each one of you takes a half and a half of the kid. And guess what? The real mother said, no, let the child just go to the other mother. And then that's where the king was able to determine who loved the child more and whose child it was. So one of the things I can say about Mirima Nation, they call it, yeah, Mirima people, the Mountaineers, yeah, is that I think the fact that the Mountaineers have held back show you the dedication and the love that the Kikuyu people have for the country of Kenya, that they are not willing, to burn this country. We are not willing to burn this country. We love our country so much, and we have a sense of ownership for this country, just like all Kenyans, by the way. We have this sense of ownership. We don't want to see destruction. And for that reason, we will just say, okay, let it be. This too shall pass. Let's sit back and watch and hope that justice takes its course. And for me, that story came, to light. And I don't know if any of you guys will find it somewhere in the Bible. That would be nice. But it just came to me that, the real owners of the land are we the people of Kenya. And we cannot allow our country to burn. We have seen other countries in this world go up in smoke, in ashes. And yet, if only people were able just to hold back, because I also saw President Kenyatta, the previous President Kenyatta, also asking people to hold back their emotions, telling people like, some sort of sect leaders, telling them, yeah, we know you mean the best for the country, but hold back, because Kenya is bigger than all of us. None of us is bigger than the country. So I'm really proud of the fact that, we've been able to tame our ourselves, yeah, and our emotions, and to hold back so that we do not cause further destruction for our country. So without any further ado, why don't I introduce our guest on the show? Her name is Susan, and she's a lawyer. What, you don't want that name, Susan? Susan is a lawyer. She was here with us before, but Susan usually is here to help us understand what's going on and what has been happening. And I think, she'll bring to light, maybe just do a little brief of a summary. I'll allow her to do the summary. And then I will take it over a bit later, and we can talk about the ladies, and should I say, we can talk about the crimes against humanity and what is going on in that area. I think, Susan, I'll just allow you to take the floor. And I also want to welcome everybody who is on board. Welcome, Frank, and everybody else on the show. Susan, can you give us a brief of what went on in the past 24 hours and say hi to our African, our Queen Mo family on board?
Good evening, everybody, or greetings, whatever time it is where you are, because I know not everybody is in Kenya. Yeah, so I'm really happy to be here, and I'll give you our update, our court roundup. So yesterday afternoon, we had the ruling on the two applications, one by the Attorney General and one by the National Assembly, to lift or discharge or vacate the conservatory orders. These conservatory orders were preventing the state from swearing in the incoming deputy president. So what they did is they said that their ruling had four broad headlines. One was the introduction, background, analysis, and then the determination. So some of the issues in the analysis that they were discussing were if the court has jurisdiction. The second was, if yes, are the matters triable by the court? When we say justiciable, it means does the court have jurisdiction to hear those matters? Does the Constitution allow it to hear the matters? Then the last one is, if yes, then should the conservatory orders that were granted on 18th of October, one in Kerugoya and one in Nairobi, should they stand? Should they remain in place? Like I told you last time, the conservatory order preserves the substratum of the case. So and it contains, it preserves the substratum of the case, so that the petition at the end of the day will not be rendered nugatory or of just be an academic exercise. There's a reason why that petition was filed, and basically the petitions, there are consolidated petitions. So for the purposes of this discussion, when I say petitioner, I mean the Rigathi Gachagua and his group, the people who are supporting, who had filed petition in court. When I say respondents, I mean state bodies like the Attorney General, the Speaker of the National Assembly, the Senate, and all that. IEBC and all those. And then we have a group of people called interested parties. And these are groups like the Law Society of Kenya, Kituo cha Sheria, some individuals like Dr. Kaminwa. So basically what happened when the court considered that analysis, when, like I told you, it was in four stages, they decided that it was in response to the first question that the court has jurisdiction, and they said that that is conferred on the court by the Constitution. The second one, there was a challenge to the jurisdiction of the court because some people were saying that the jurisdiction is with the Supreme Court, and they found that not to be the case. The Supreme Court only has jurisdiction, not only the Supreme Court's jurisdiction is for election petitions, presidential election petitions. And then the last question was whether or not they should lift the conservatory order. So using what they called public interest, they said that it was in public interest that they lift the order because the DP's office should not remain vacant. If the conservatory order, according to them, the court continues, that will be like they're suspending the constitution. But the DP's office under the 2010 constitution is very different from the way it was under the 1963 constitution. The 2010 constitution took about 20 years for us to develop. Remember the banana and orange manenos and all that, and then we had the harmonized draft, and eventually we had the 2010 constitution, which remember there was a big ceremony where it was inaugurated, and so under the 2010 constitution, it was the members of the public or Kenyans felt that the office of the deputy president has to be protected. If you remember, during the Moi era, for those of us who were aware at that time, but or around that time, there were roadside sackings. And the vice president literally was an assistant, the principal assistant to the president. So the workload was given by the president to the vice president. Some of these vice presidents used to find themselves without work, So some of them resigned, like Raila's father, Oginga Odinga. He resigned. He didn't want to just sit in there. There was another one called Joseph Murumbi. He also resigned. And if you remember, there was a lot of like roadside sackings. So they wanted to protect the office of the DP. So under the 2010, now the DP, to get him out, he has to go through an impeachment process, which is actually supposed to be a more difficult process, supposed to be quite difficult. And that's why it was staged. So that, first a member of parliament files, there are various types of impeachment processes, but for this particular, the one they followed was that they had a member of parliament moving the court for the impeachment. He had to be supported by 1/3 of the members of parliament, and then when he brings it in, there's supposed to be some public participation after the debate. There's supposed to be public participation, and then there's supposed to be voting where there's supposed to be 2/3. So in the National Assembly, where the members of parliament sit, out of 349, 233 members have to vote. For it to be passed, 233 members have to vote for it to be passed, and then it moves now to the Senate. So the two houses have two different functions. So the Senate sits as a quasi-judicial body, and so in fact, they take a different oath of office. They take an oath as if they're judges, as if it's a court. So they take a different oath, and so they're supposed to sit and listen to the case, and it's a quasi-judicial body. And then after that, after listening and the questioning of witnesses, this side and that side, the person being impeached is given an opportunity to be heard. He's supposed to, the Constitution says that he can be heard in person or by advocate or both, with both. So Gachagua chose to be present and with an advocate. So we know what happened in the end. So basically what happened is they said that this DP's post has specific roles, and that those roles, those duties cannot remain pending. And this is vis-a-vis the Constitution itself actually providing that they have 60 days to approve the presidential nominee. So that interpretation, I think, is what is some concerning to many people. And the question that Queen Mo asked was that, did the Constitution, did the application of the Constitution live up to our expectations as Kenyans? Advocate Ongoya, Elisha Ongoya, said that our Constitution gives us the hope that the institutions will operate the way they're supposed to be, operate as envisaged under the Constitution, and the promise that the institutions that are supposed to protect will protect. The question is, did that happen? Depending on how you see it, there's also the opportunity. They were given leave to appeal that decision, but the judges also said, and the Attorney General has said that they will abide by the rules of the court and they will comply with whatever rules. But what the court did is they said, on public interest considerations, the conservatory order cannot continue. Then akin to suspending the operation of the articles which give the DP specific tasks, and so they will not allow it to continue. So there's that confusion still in people's minds, that the same Constitution provided a space. The people envisaged there was time allowed for the nominees to come through and be vetted. And even that time period, when you see it at 60 days, there was even time for public participation. The issue, of course, also came up. And what is so interesting about this process and why we should be a little concerned is that this, I don't know whether you saw, is it the tweet by Honorable Martha Koome, who said something like, and I'm paraphrasing, she said something like, an elected deputy president replaced by an appointed deputy president. In the minds of Kenyans, because we know we did not approve, many Kenyans, let me just say all of them, mind of many Kenyans, we didn't vote for Kindiki. We voted for Gachagua. He has been removed, but Kindiki, we didn't vote for him. I know the argument is that the members of parliament were exercising their delegated authority that we give them when we vote them in. But the processes of parliament also say that public participation must be there. This is Article 180. That whenever parliament is transacting, legislating, or transacting any other business, there's supposed to be public participation. So those are now the issues. So what is left? We continue with the question of whether or not we feel the Constitution was interpreted in such a way to keep our hope and to keep the promise. What type of orders are likely to accrue to the petitioner, that is the outgoing deputy president, or let me call him by name, Gachagua? If that office is now occupied, and this was one of the things that some of the petitioners tried to say, if that office is occupied, it's very difficult to reverse it. So in making this decision, in my view, they have already told us the results of the petition itself, the main petition. So whatever remedies they'll give him cannot in any way contradict their lifting of the conservatory order. Because by doing that, they allow...
Susan. Now, thank you very much. Can you explain that a little bit for us who are not lawyers? You guys, when
Yes.
you hear Susan speak, stop her, because you know she's a lawyer. She'll keep going. She thinks that she's in court. Eh? Hi, Fia.
Okay.
Karibuni, by the way. Hi,
Hello,
everybody out there.
everybody.
Hi. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you say, yeah, just explain again exactly what you just said. You talked about lifting of conservatory orders, and then you
Yes.
said what? Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You
So,
said this tells us the result of the petition, right?
in my view,
In your view, in
because
other words, the
yes,
petition is the actual case, is it? The
the
petition is
petition has not been heard. The main
the
petition has
petition
not
has
been heard.
not been heard, right?
No,
The major
no.
case, the
Yeah,
main case was not heard.
it's not
Actually,
been
yeah, isn't
heard.
that what you're saying? Yeah, because
Yes.
what we heard was the applications. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, what we heard was the applications,
Yes.
the applications from both sides. Yeah, from both sides,
No.
from from the applications from Gachagua and his
Mm-hmm.
lawyers,
Oh,
or the
no.
people, the 30 additional ones.
Okay. What we heard
Uh-huh.
is the, yeah, I guess you could put it that way.
In
There were,
layman's terms.
okay, let me explain what happened. So
Yeah.
the petitioner side, some of them filed for what to court. When they went to court on the 18th, they filed applications for conservatory orders. Two different judges in two different courts gave those orders. One in
Okay, sorry,
Kirogoya.
explain. The petitioner's side, you said, for the people who have just come now, the petitioner's
Okay.
side is Rigathi Gachagua, the previous
And the other,
deputy,
yeah, and Wananchi, who are also
and the people who are on that side. Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
yeah,
Good.
who
And
have,
then the respondents is the government and the attorney general and the lawyers
yes,
with the government.
yes,
Yeah. So the
yes.
petitioner
And
is
then we have,
actually interested parties who are, you
no,
said, the LSK, whatever, right?
yeah. So there are three
There are
parties,
three
right? So
levels. There are three stakeholders in this. Yeah. Okay.
yes,
Good.
yes.
Yeah. There's the
Petitioners,
petitioner.
which is, yeah, who are aggrieved by what the people who
Yeah.
are aggrieved.
They're
Then
upset.
the respondents,
Okay.
the ones who are defending the action,
Who are defending
that,
their case. Yeah. The
yeah,
parliament,
that
the
they
government's
were,
decision. Mhm.
yeah,
Sorry, let me shut up.
because okay, so just for clarity, the petitioners are those who are aggrieved, like Rigiji, if I may use that, is nickname, and the other petitioners, who include laymen, who are also aggrieved by that order. They felt their constitutional rights had been infringed, so they are petitioners. Then the respondents are the state bodies, the organs of the state, the National Assembly, the AG, who are now defending the state's action or the actions of parliament. Yeah, the actions of parliament. So those are called the respondents. And then we have interested parties who have an interest in the result of that case. So they are normally like institutions that are involved in human rights issues. They could be individuals who are human rights advocates. So those are called interested parties. So that's somebody like Dr. Kaminwa, who you saw was very vocal. He was an interested party. Was not. So we had those three. So what I was saying is that they filed a petition. The petitioners filed a petition and an application. And that application was for conservatory orders. So two of the petitioners who filed their petitions got conservatory orders because they filed applications for conservatory orders. One in Kirogoya and one in Nairobi.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you remind us
So
what,
now,
for everybody who wasn't here before, what is conservatory orders?
a conservatory order is an order that the High Court in such a case can sits and protects the substratum of the case, so that the subject matter is not doesn't become irrelevant, or the case is not rendered nugatory. So it's preserving the situation so that the court can act. And if the petitioner is able to convince the court that their rights have been violated, that there's something for them to make an order on. But so an application is, so that's what a conservatory order is to protect the substratum, the fundamental thing in the case, yeah, which was actually the constitutional breaches through the actions at National Assembly and Senate. right? So yeah, so where was I? So I was explaining that the effect of the lifting this conservatory order is that one of the things and one of the substance of the case really is the position of the deputy president, and whether or not Rigathi was removed using through the people who removed him from that position followed or abided by the constitution. So by lifting the order, by removing the conservatory order which had been granted, the court now gave way for another deputy president to be sworn in. So what if they had not lifted that order, that would have meant that they would have been able to the petition would have gone on, and they'd have heard the substance of the arguments on constitutional issues, which include right to fair hearing, public participation, what's the other thing? There were several grounds, actually, several constitutional points. I heard one advocate saying about 30 violations of the Constitution. They were complaining about 30 different violations of the Constitution. So that would have been heard. But now, because the conservatory order has been lifted, it means that even if it already tells us, and this is the point I was making, because a court cannot act in vain and it cannot act in absurdity. If it has lifted the conservatory orders, it cannot now, it is stopped from saying that Rigathi Gachagua was not removed using constitutional methods, that the process was unconstitutional, and therefore, because when you say a process is unconstitutional, it renders that whole process null and void. It's as if it never happened. So it means if they want to impeach him, they'd have to start again. So this is why the advocates were fighting and saying, no, if you have to preserve the subject matter of this case. So that opportunity, in my view, has been lost. So I'm just also wondering what type of orders they will give, even though they claimed that our court can do many things, that is able to grant orders even on the existing petition. And by the way, they acknowledged that the petition raised weighty issues, and they said, come back for mention on the 7th. So, so that's the situation. I think, in my view, that they have already tied their hands. They can only make certain type of orders. And Rigathi, in terms of, one of the things he was fighting was that impeachment, because it has implications on his political career. It also has implications on his pension and all those entitlements. And something we need to observe also is yeah, it does, because it's like being sacked summarily. You're not entitled to the same. Yeah, it's bad.
Question. We didn't think about that. We didn't really consider that. Gachagua will probably lose his right to his pension because he's only been serving 2 years out of the 5-year term. Yeah, that's one. Apart from his income, there's also the benefits that he may lose apart from his security. Yeah, that's quite interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's quite serious because, like, if you have been dismissed for gross misconduct, the dismissal is, just put it in now a wananchi level, it's summer. It's done immediately, and then you don't get the same benefits. You are not entitled to certain benefits. So he could suffer the same fate. And we know, even if you look at our history as a nation, look at past presidents, we still call Uhuru President Uhuru. He still has that, he still has jobs, by the way, that he does. I think he was in is it West Africa? He had a job. He was doing something. He's still a statesman.
Yes.
And so now, this is a disgraceful thing. this impeachment. It's a disgraceful thing, and it's something that is not something he would want to be. Gachagua would want to be attached to his name. So that is the reason why he's fighting, because even for the process itself, when you look at the history of why we have the impeachment process, it is actually to make it more difficult for a DP, a deputy president, to be sacked. But we've seen actually a deputy president can be sacked in 17 days. We have been shown that is possible, and yet it's supposed to be something that's not easy to do. Other jurisdictions, they've tried to sack presidents and all that, and you find that they get stuck somewhere and it collapses, because they understand that this is an elected person. This is somebody that people have elected, and so you can't just treat things how you want. So really, that is what happened. I know they're going on appeal. We'll see what happens. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't know they're going on appeal. Just before you get to the appeal, Wairimo is asking, so why the open court hearing on November 7th if all issues are now moot? I guess this is going into your appeal, right? And also, we've been told that a civil servant has to be 6 months removed from taking a political office. Do we just disregard that? Apart from that, Wairimo, he should be 6 months removed, plus he also should join a political party here for 6 months before. And then he has to go through vetting processes by state organs like the IEBC, the CRB, and all those. Yeah. So, yeah. Hi, Sally. Karibu sana. Yeah. Susan is really good. Let me stop interrupting her. Go on, Susan.
Okay,
I'm just trying to stop you from your complicated legalese sometimes.
I'm trying to simplify it, because it's important that we understand as Kenyans. For me, I'm very keen that, we are able to differentiate. This issue is not about whether or not you like Gachagua. This is about our constitution. And as Kenyans, we are supposed to defend our constitution. And that's why you're seeing there's so many other petitioners apart from Gachagua. I think yesterday when they were doing the ruling, they said Gachagua plus 40 others. The numbers are still going up of people who feel aggrieved by what happened. So the 6 months, that's true. What happened on, so the Senate hearing was on 17th. I went to sleep. I heard all the voting, and I went to sleep. I was very surprised in the morning to see that there was a Gazette notice issued on the 17th to say that the Senate had passed a resolution that Gachagua stand impeached, and that the National Assembly was going to have a special sitting to hear, to receive a memorandum from the president with his nominee for approval. So the president prepared a memorandum which was submitted to the Speaker of the National Assembly, and that memorandum had a number of documents on it. So I remember those documents you're talking about. There was a help clearance certificate, there was a credit bureau certificate, there was one from CID, there was one from IEBC, and this is the one that caused a lot of problems, because according to the constitution, the IEBC are the ones who are charged with checking the eligibility for somebody to hold a position of a president or deputy president. And they produced that memorandum from President Ruto had a clearance certificate from IEBC. It also had one from the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, that is Bishop Oginde. And there was a whole list of them there, plus his academic certificates and stuff like that. So they produced that.
For those who don't know what IEBC is, can you explain?
It's the electoral
independent electoral.
Yeah.
Independent.
Yeah.
It's the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission, right?
Yeah, independent.
And what's the problem with it right now?
Okay, the problem with the IEBC is that there are no commissioners. And there are some rulings in court to say that the IEBC is not properly constituted if there are no commissioners. Right now, we don't have commissioners. Even if we were to have a flash election, it would not be possible because we don't have commissioners. So actually, there was a court order, and one of the petitioner's advocates raised this and said that there was a court order sometime in January where they were told, the state was told to constitute the IEBC, and it has not been complied with to date. So this was in January. So it has not been complied with to date. And so they were arguing, why are you giving audience to a group of people who are delinquent in observing of court orders? Because they have not observed that court order. That's why we still do not have an IEBC. So it'd be, if there was to be an election, there'd be a problem. So, and the interesting thing again about the IEBC, they had a representative who came to
question: how would the judges then, or even the Senate, agree to the appointment of the specific deputy president when the IEBC hasn't vetted them?
This is it. This question has been asked and they're just ignoring it. They're not answering it. Because even in court, their representative came. He said, their lawyer came. He said, IEBC has no role in this process. And yet they gave a clearance certificate to Professor Kindiki. So you can see some mischief. They gave a clearance certificate, and yet the advocate is saying, we have no role in this. We are not supposed to be involved in this. This is not the same as an electoral process. So that advocate was asked, so what IEBC, who is supposed to vet the eligibility of the deputy president? In fact, there was some very heated exchange there because somebody said, one of the advocates said, you're saying basically that the president can just pick anybody who has not been vetted to be the deputy president. Of course, that question went unanswered, and the court did not answer that question either. I'm not from what I heard. So yes, there's been that issue about, and it has been raised about Kindiki being a state officer, and that he is required to have resigned well before. That question has not been answered. There's also a clause that says that that he cannot. The only people who are exempted from resigning are the president, deputy president, or members of parliament. Before such a post, so only those three categories. But Kindiki was a state officer, so he doesn't fall in that category.
Repeat that, Susan. You said what? The only people what? Who are?
The only people not required to resign before are the president, the deputy president, and members of parliament. But
so what you're saying, in effect, is that the only other people who could have replaced the DP is an MP. Because they wouldn't have had to resign and wait. I mean, like that quickly.
Yes,
that fast.
yes.
That fast.
Actually,
because MPs are already elected, right? Is that why?
Yes.
Or what?
No. Okay. They don't have to resign.
They don't have to resign. Because they don't have to resign like state officers like Kindiki, because Kindiki was a cabinet secretary for internal security. So that makes him a state officer, and that makes him not aligned to any political party. So, but then the MPs and the president and the DP did not need to resign. So if Ruto could have found an MP, a member of parliament, that would have, he would have been able to get along with, that would have been okayed by the constitution, like that fast, that quickly, perhaps. Okay.
That question
let me read a few. Let me read a few of the comments here. Sally Kavere is congratulating you. She's saying you're really good. She likes the way you explain, and so that we lay people understand. Thank you, Sally. And then Wairimo is saying, I'm not a Rigathi fan. We call him Rigathi, you guys. The previous deputy president now. I'm not a Rigathi Gachagua fan either, but it's interesting that our constitution would make it easier to remove a deputy president than to even remove a member of the county assembly, MCA, and I would add to that governor, you know. And then Fia is saying probably the clearance came from a higher power, from higher powers. We don't want to get in trouble here, Fia.
For
Okay.
sure, for sure. I agree with you that it's supposed to be difficult to remove, to impeach the deputy president. Remember the history I shared with you about the roadside sackings of the vice president, and not giving them jobs. And it's supposed
Yeah,
to
you're
be
saying when you
difficult.
say roadside sackings, what you mean is sacking on the radio. People used to get
Yes.
fired on the radio, but they can't
Yeah.
do that anymore now with the constitution. Do you remember? I used to listen to those announcements as we used to go to school, and I would be like, "Oh, okay. So who's losing their?" Actually, we were always waiting to see who was losing
Yeah.
their job this week because everybody was
Yeah.
fired on the radio. But not
Yes.
anymore. Not since our 2010 constitution. Yeah, not since
No, it's
then.
not supposed to be. It's supposed to be very difficult. And you're right that the governors, they have tried to impeach governors. And I think Sonko would be one of the few. But it's not been easy. In fact, currently there is a governor who they've gone through the impeachment process, but they were protected by the court because the process was unconstitutional. What they did was unconstitutional. So she is still in office. So one of the things that we need to observe is the way they interpreted the effect of the conservatory order. So the petitioner said it starts from the point of mischief, where the mischief set in, which would be from the time things started to go wrong in the National Assembly. And so that all that is like it's suspended, so it's like it didn't happen, according to. So in the petitioner's view, the Rigathi was still the deputy president because the process was flawed, right? But the respondent's view was that the process was complete and that Rigathi stood impeached, so the deputy president's seat was vacant. The court seems to have taken that view that the impeachment was complete and the deputy's office is vacant. And that is why they started to argue that we cannot be asked as the court to suspend the operation of certain articles. And they're forgetting that even when they said that, this same the same constitution they're talking about has provided for that space. And I think the constitution understood we did as Kenyans that we wanted some thought to be put into this. We did not want it to be such a rushed thing. And it is very difficult. If the system was operating correctly, it's actually very difficult to impeach. It should be very difficult to impeach a deputy president. But they have shown us that this impeachment process was used to settle political scores. And that is complete. The laws themselves, the judges have said themselves that we will not allow these processes to be used to settle political scores. So our constitution on trial, hope, promise. What does it boil down to, in my view? Is the people we have in those offices. They are the ones who have let us down. Because the way that constitution was formulated, the National Assembly was supposed to be working. They were servants of their constituents. But instead of being servants of their constituents, they became, I'm going to say something very political, servants of the executive. So there's state capture. I'm just repeating what I heard them arguing in court, that there's state capture and there's a threat of like what they're calling an imperial presidency, because now the total control is now in one arm of government. And there's a reason why our constitution is very clear about the three arms. They're supposed to be checking and balancing. So one has been given the role of implementing, that's the executive. The other one has been given the role of making laws, that is parliament. And the other one has been given the job of interpreting, and that's the judiciary. So we have roles like that. So we're supposed to keep checking. The three are supposed to be checking each other, but you can see this is when you have state capture, and it's state captured both houses of the National Assembly, and now we can see some interference in the judiciary. That was an expedient decision, and it has, in my view, collapsed the case. And for Kenyans, we wanted to know, what is the correct way? What are the right standards of impeaching a deputy president? What is fair hearing? What does that mean? Yeah, what does that mean? When you talk about public participation, first of all, why is there no law that dictates or shows how public participation should be done? And that is where our voices as Kenyan. That's where we can speak through public participation and through voting. And,
that is true. Well, apparently they said, if I might interrupt, they said public participation happened, but we know there was only like 200,000 emails that ended up, jamming the Senate, the National Assembly email box.
It was
the Senate.
National Assembly. It was the National Assembly.
Yeah. And 200,000 out of 14 million voters. So even if you're supposed to take that 10%, that should be at least 1.4 million. And I believe that the IEBC, they would have probably had the capacity to do this if they were empowered, to capture the views of everybody and, at least to consolidate them, etc. But anyway, now it's a done deal. Okay. Like you said, this has collapsed the case. It has collapsed the case completely. So now we have a new deputy president who we welcome into the fold. Yeah. Whether you want or whether you don't, the fact is that we do have a new deputy president, and his name is Dr. Kithure Kindiki. Now, Dr. Kithure Kindiki is, in my view, being looked at on two fronts. Number one, he's very highly qualified. In terms of professionalism, professionally, he has a PhD. He's more about him, you were in the School of Law. I remember him as the head of the School of Law, the law school, and he's very highly respected by a lot of people. Even some of the lawyers who were representing Gachagua are some of his students, including that Elisha, Yeah. So they are his students. They recognize him as a true PhD, not a fake PhD. He's a true PhD holder. Well, educated, somebody who knows his stuff. He knows the law. He understands the law. However, what is a little bit that he's been looked at in that sense. And then in the second sense, he's however been looked at as not qualified to have taken the DP position because of the fact that he didn't fit the criteria or he didn't follow the procedure that the Constitution dictates for that position. That position was not followed. And I mean, that procedure was not followed. And therefore, he is considered not qualified in that sense. Okay? So that's two issues with the DP. But on the other hand, looking at the reaction of the president himself, the executive himself, Ruto himself, he mentioned something, and I thought he was speaking a little bit sarcastically, where he said, "You see, you are a very intelligent man." He described him today as intelligent and somebody who will be able to follow up on what he has not been able to follow up on over the past 2 years. Okay, that's on the positive side. Yeah, that's how the president, sees Kindiki. And he says he's intelligent. We can't dispute that. He says he'll be able to follow up on what has not been followed up on. So I guess indirectly, he's also saying other things about Rigathi Gachagua, which are unmentionable here, which I'm not going to speak. But to me, what I found a little bit suspect, you guys, is that at the same time we heard in the news that, what we call interested parties, I would call them, okay? Other governments were putting pressure on the government of Kenya to provide, for example, the US has requested a second military base, in two places, either I believe in Wajir County or in Turkana County, as a matter of urgency. The other pressure that I see there is that the government of Kenya has been provided with a loan amount, I believe it's by the IMF, has given Kenya a gigantic loan, huge, billions of shillings, came through today. I mean, was approved today.
73 billion or something.
73 billion. Yeah,
something like that.
a huge amount of money. We're being provided that a huge amount of money. It's almost like, very good. Now we can release some money to you, because right now the cry of the common mwananchi is actually the problem with the. Oh, the other thing is that the government is claiming that that the cost of living has come down, because basically they're saying that the cost of living has come down. Inflation, specifically inflation, has come down, and they're quoting amounts such as in the 2% range, which is even lower than the UK. The UK was posting about 4% inflation, and Kenya is posting 2 point something% inflation, which is unbelievable. And then I think maybe I also went and I saw that if you go into the supermarkets today in Kenya, in Nairobi, you'll find that there's a lot of sale items and even a lot of advertisements on TV where a lot of supermarkets have things for sale. I guess that is where they now talk about, they would claim, what do we say? They would say that would show that there's the rate of inflation, which is the rate of the services and commodities, has come down. So yes, commodities has come down, but the question is the demand going up? Is the demand going up? And the answer to that is a big resounding no. In fact, if you look in the general economy, you will see that there's so many businesses that are closing. If you go on TikTok, there was a lady who was telling people, ladies and gentlemen, don't worry what people think about you. Just close your business. Stop trying to, support your business through another job. Don't do that to support your business, your rent, your landlord, your workers. Just close the business, because there's no business. And they were quoting, like, from September, October, the sales were negligible. Yeah, in many businesses, they were not able to make a profit. And then when I read the comments, because I like reading the comments from people, they noted that actually this has been something that's been going on over the past perhaps 5 or 6 years, 5 to 6 years, from 2017, 2018. They've noted that the economy has been struggling. And if you really look at the data, and I will next time, you will actually note that there's a lot of investors. Kenya has lost over 8,000 investors on our securities exchange. Yeah, we've lost them, and we continue to lose them, and they continue to leave us. And one of the reasons that they're also leaving us is because of, they mentioned today, I saw somewhere, they're talking about the kickbacks that they're being requested for. Yeah, kickbacks by government or officials, which is like corruption, literally, delays in payment, so that delays in payment so that they can earn interest, Yeah, which is, these are things that I myself as a contractor have experienced myself. Okay. And the other one is things to do with the justice system, which they believe, that they may not be able to get justice if they took a matter to court.
Yeah.
Okay. So the kickbacks, the delays, the jurisprudence, those are some of the reasons that are being cited. Okay. And again, now I'm not going to talk too much about the issue of the women, because I'm doing that one as a research study. But the only thing I wanted to say is I noted today, sorry, I'm changing subjects a little bit too fast. But what I wanted to say is that all of these decisions have been made under this context where we're being given money, where there's been demands on our country for additional military base, where, by foreigners, where at the same time, the economy has been stagnating while the country is claiming to have reduced the rate of inflation, although that's not being seen in terms of, consumer, demand for services and commodities. So let's look at things in a very holistic manner.
Yeah.
Look at the decisions that have been taken in a holistic manner. You want to say something, Susan?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment about, you talked about two reasons why, two reactions to Professor Kindiki. Yes, he's a respected scholar. He was the dean of the Faculty of Law. And he is actually, if I'm not wrong, he's a constitutional lawyer. And that's his area of speciality. But there's something on the negative side, and he is actually, a pleasant fellow. I mean, you and I, Queen Mo and I, we've interacted with him in some other business, some work we were doing, so we know him. Soft-spoken, to be a dean at the Faculty of Law is not easy. You have to really campaign. It's a very hot post, so that's quite something. He's respected by his students and all that. But some of the things that would say on the other side, and is that he's associated with the tragedy of the Gen Z protests and the deaths. And even if you ask in the village, and they'll say, oh, he is responsible for the killing of the young people who went on the protests. And we saw him speaking very very strongly, toughly. We even saw some of his instructions, and they were doing the rounds on social media. And we know people died, and there was excessive reactions. There was the pink water, the jets of pink water, and all that. And so he's known for that. I mean, that is something that he has not been able to explain away. And during this, we know that people not only died, people were seriously injured. We know that people were even injured when they were in places of sanctuary like church compounds. We know some people have disappeared. Some people have not been seen since then, and they're continuing to disappear. We're seeing a lot of the social media personalities, and I know I saw Sifuna asking Ruto, where is somebody Aoko? He wants Ruto to tell him where so and so somebody Aoko. If you check on the YouTube, you can find that demand.
She showed up today, by the way, on the border of Tanzania and Kenya. She was found.
Okay. She was
found at the doorstep of a hospital. Mm-hmm.
Aoko. Somebody Aoko. Is it a man or a woman?
Maverick. Her name is Maverick Aoko.
Okay, yes.
She's a lady.
So I think they made enough noise and whatever, so they demanded her return. So that's one of the things about Kindiki. Also, the question that I've heard people asking is that if he's a lawyer, and he knows that the law must be followed. He's an officer of the court, and stuff like that. Was he satisfied that for him to be eligible, that he met the criteria according to the expectations of the Kenyan people? But then, of course, we're seeing selective memories and selective application of law, some sense of that's called impunity. Really, we're seeing that happening, and we really need, for those of us who are praying, we really need to pray for him, because there's no guarantee that he will not be impeached, because we can do it in 17 days. It's very easy. That's what we've been shown. But for me, I think my analysis on that situation, and why I'm saying it's quite a precarious post, is because the article that talks about filling the vacancy of the vice president, of the deputy president, says that if the person who comes in, the new deputy president, serves for a period of more than 2.5 years, they will be deemed to have served a full term as the deputy president. What is the significance of that? The significance is that, and I think this has something to do with the timing, and this is just a theory, that Gachagua was taken as the DP for the plan was he'd be the DP for the first 2 years. He was not Ruto's first choice. If you remember, at around the time we were waiting to see who his running mate will be, if you can go back to that time, he was not, it was Kindiki who was there, and Waigoro, and there was another third person, I can't remember who it was. But there were 3 people, Kindiki, Waiguru, and somebody else. And then Gachagua came from the blue. So
I guess it was Mudavadi. Was it Mudavadi?
I can't remember. I have to check, but
I
I
think it was him.
remember.
Yeah, he was very close. Yeah.
I remember Kindiki being there. Also, we know that Kindiki is the one who was one of the lawyers who was with Gachagua, with Ruto in The Hague. He was one of his lawyers. So they go a way back. And remember how Kindiki reacted when he was not chosen. He was not happy. I don't know whether we can get those clips, but he was not happy. I remember watching it, and he was not happy. And in fact, his announcement was that he's not going to engage in politics. He's not competing. He's not going to vie for any post. And he went. And next thing we saw, he was appointed as a CS, and that's a non-elective post. So they have a history. So my view is that Gachagua was chosen because of his popularity, his ability to organize the people of the mountain to vote for what is the party called, Kenya Kwanza. In fact, if you went those sides at that time, they will tell you this place is all yellow. This place is yellow because that's the color of UDA. This place is yellow. So he was needed, maybe because of his economic strength and his popularity in the region, in that area, he was needed. Perhaps Kindiki did not carry the same political weight in terms of popularity or ability to mobilize people as Gachagua did. But perhaps he also may not have had enough, his pockets were not as deep as Gachagua's. So Gachagua was needed for a purpose. And perhaps this is why you're finding people from the mountain very upset, because they feel like he was betrayed, he was used for a purpose. So he served for 2 years. And when I look at it, it looks to me like 2 years, but we have to make sure that he doesn't serve, he doesn't encroach
2.5.
beyond. Yeah, so that whoever we'll bring Kindiki in so that he can, he can serve, he can be deemed to have served the full term as the deputy president. So he'll be entitled at the end of the 5 years, he'll be entitled to, let's say he doesn't stand again, or he's not the running mate next time in the successful presidency. He'll get the pension and everything of a deputy president. So there's something about the timing, and we need to interrogate that. There's something about the urgency of putting in a DP so quickly that we need to understand, because as Kenyans, so we just need to pray. And and the other point is that you raised about areas of discontent.
Before you get to that point, Susan, just one of these housekeeping issues, guys. Please also thumbs up the video as much as possible so that YouTube can promote, and StreamYard, they can promote this video and more people can see it. Yeah, please share the video also with your links, and we should be wrapping up pretty soon in the next, I would say, 10 minutes, if that's possible. We may not be able to get deeply into the women's issues because this one really has taken up a lot of time, but it's been really helpful. Thank you, Susan.
Okay, I was just going to comment about the issue of overtaxation, which is another concern of Kenyans. I've seen a few videos online and people are saying their salaries, their pay slips, and one person was saying...
Absolutely, yeah, definitely. It's part of the economic problem that we have.
Yeah, people are so heavily taxed, and then when you add the loan that you took, there's almost nothing left from your salary. So, and one of the challenges of saying is that all these taxations are on gross. So say your salary is 30,000. So your tax, NSSF is on that 30. Pay as you earn on the 30. SHA on the 30. NSSF on the 30, Everything is on the gross figure, and it's not on a graduating scale. And yet all these deductions are being
Housing
taken.
fund, affordable housing
Yeah,
on the
affordable
same.
housing
Plus
is
some
on the
people have
same.
also added VAT. 17%.
Yeah,
When you go to the shop to buy food, you're also paying
yeah,
VAT. Yeah. So
yeah,
actually,
yeah.
some people are calculating it like this, Susan. Let me help you a little bit because I looked at that a little bit. I'm no finance expert. We need to bring finance experts on here now. Yeah. But I saw some people talk about that pay as you earn is 30% of your income. Okay. And then when you add the VAT, is I think 17% or 16%, 17% or something like that. And then you have the housing fund. Housing fund, is it 1.5%, 1.3% or something, 1.5%, let's say 1.5%. And then we have NSSF, National Social Security Fund. And then you also have the SHA, is it? What is it? The
2.75%.
2.75%. So actually, you're
Yeah,
parting with 50% and more of your salary before you can now also attach to that the loan that you took. And then now start thinking of paying rent, paying for your transport, paying for your school fees, paying your electricity bills, water bills, and other people who are sick. People in your family who are sick because they have to actually pay cash. So in the end, people are negative. They can't really tell whether they're better off working in business or whether they're better off being employed. Yeah, those guys who are in business are looking at the guys who are in employment and saying, "Lucky you! At least you have a salary on which to budget." And the person in the salary is saying, "Oh boy, this doesn't make any sense. I'm giving my time
yeah.
for money. I'm exchanging time for money, but it's not making any financial sense."
But
So I
one
think we
lady
are
said,
all, yeah. Hmm?
yeah, sorry, one lady said she's a kidney, she has to go for dialysis, and she said that what she was paying as NHIF annually has now been doubled under this new scheme. So where she was paying 6,000, now she's paying 12,000. So it's become more expensive. And
Plus,
the other point
something
about
else that the
this,
doctors are saying is that it's not working. It's actually not working because also the number of appointments that you're allowed has reduced. Like you can only go for one appointment and for only a certain amount of money. Like for example, there was a concern that to give birth, only 30,000 shillings is allowed. They'll only pay for 30,000 and any more than that. Come on, we know that if you're going to have something like a C-section, you're looking at 3 times that amount or more. Yeah, whereas in the NHIF, that was paid. Cancer treatment, people who had cancer, they were receiving chemotherapy under the NHIF. And I saw Modonua Wamoshomba has actually done some research on that. She went and did
okay.
some rounds on that. We'll talk about that next time. Yeah.
Mm.
But I
And
think at
then
this point, as we wrap up, Susan, we'll allow Susan to wrap up. You guys, if you have any more questions, Wairimo has also said that even the deaths in Madare and Kendile in 2023 happened on Kindiki's watch. Yeah, well, he was there.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
Also, the
Yeah,
taxes on money transactions, bank, M-Pesa. Exactly.
yeah,
They're coming for
yeah,
this money. Thank you
yeah.
very much, Wairimo, for reminding us. Yes, they are coming
Mm.
for our M-Pesa mobile money accounts. So what's happening? People are being told, look, pay us in cash. We want to be paid in cash. People have tried everything, migrating to pay bill, Sidri, Pochia, Biashara. People are doing all kinds of somersaults, but it's
Now
not working.
it's withdraw. Now it's withdraw.
Yeah, there's
Now
withdrawal as
you
well.
do withdraw. Withdraw. Yeah, the other thing I wanted to mention was about the sales. This is a marketing gimmick, I think, because the turnover of people that don't have money to buy stuff, and then the stuff is getting bad, is close to its expiry date, so they have to sell it at least to make some money. And that's what people look forward to. In fact, people have been sustained a lot by watching. And actually, people are doing what you call it bargain shopping. And, you check, okay, here, like Carrefour does, you can get unga for 100 bob, this what, and you find the place is crowded. But they have to do it because people don't have the money. The food is they will not be able to sell it because it will have expired. So they have to get to move the stock. So that's why they're doing the sales. The sales are not necessarily a sign of good things. And yeah, so even electricity, I remember at least our electricity bill went up. So it was so high, and we were shocked. We asked them, the meter reader, and asked, why is it so high? He said, oh, it's the tariffs. So some of these things they're saying you have to
Yes.
examine them a little bit more, because it's
Mm-hmm.
the other thing about corruption
There's
is,
somebody who I was listening to today. Sorry to interrupt. There's somebody who was listening today who was saying that they started a bakery and they were doing really well out in, not inside Nairobi, in one of these other cities. They did a bakery and they were supplying to other towns and competing with mainstream bakeries that have been there for a long time. But now they can no longer afford the cost of electricity, like you mentioned right now, cost of oil going up as well, and flour, transport. Yeah. But they're saying that they can't afford it anymore. And all these other costs that are associated with employees. Because you see, if you're employing people, it means that you have to cover the NSSF, you have to cover the SHA. There's always something that the employer also has to pay. Yeah. So definitely now the question is going back, wrapping it around and looping it back to our original question, which is about the new and having incoming deputy president. The expectations on him now is that he will help to reduce the cost of living in Kenya. That is basically where Kenyans want. They're only interested really in the economy. Majority of Kenyans really couldn't care less who is in power as long as they have security and they have affordable living. Security, number one, and being able to afford food, being able to afford services, being able to afford their school fees and things like that. Jobs, that's another big can of worms right there. Yeah. So let's see whether, DP Kithure Kindiki is going to make a difference and help the Kenya Kwanza government to secure jobs for young people, to secure the security of women and men in the society and children. Yeah. And also be true to the constitution, because I saw that he was handed the constitution. I looked at that constitution that he was handed in a glass thing. Did you see? The president handed the deputy president the constitution. Did you notice that at the end? And I was like, okay, which constitution is this one? I hope it's the same one that I know. But anyway, yeah, he needs to be true to the constitution, because again, as a professional and as all those judges as well, apart from working for the government, there may come a time one day when they want to work outside. And the question is, are they willing to fall for the bait and risk messing up their careers? Because the world is a big stage, apart from being in Kenya, that if you are ever linked to what do we say, violating the constitution as a judge and as a senior counsel and as a ex-dean of a college, then that brings into question your integrity. And I think, it's all about integrity. And I think integrity is a big thing that we should all aspire towards, because sometimes you have to pay the price. And I myself personally have had to pay the price many, many times because of guarding my integrity. And in the end, it always pays off in a positive manner. It really does, because people see you as a truthful person. And I believe the next one we'll be talking about is truth, being truthful. Yeah, you're seen as a truthful person, and so you're entrusted with bigger jobs, with more important and key roles, because you're trustworthy. So, but once your trust is in doubt, then whatever, you really lose out in so many ways. So I don't really think it's worth it for judges to put their careers on the line, their names on the line, because they have such an important function to protect the Constitution and to defend the Constitution and protect Kenyans and Kenyans' lives. Yeah, because it can cost life. It's not a good thing. So I wish, all we can say is that we wish the new DP well. And Susan, you can tell us where we're going to next after this. Is the case over now, or are they going to still plan to appeal? And then we close off and wrap up. We need to wrap up in the next 2-3 minutes, please, kindly.
Yeah,
Thea is saying the same story in the UK. High taxes. Absolutely, Thea. Yes.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even as they were speaking in court yesterday, they said there was an appeal filed in the Court of Appeal.
Mm-hmm.
But we know there's a mention on the 7th of November. Let's hear what they're going to say. I'd be interested
Okay.
to see what directions the court will give. Let's look out for that. And I heard, the media guys were doing the rounds and just saying, what would you say to Gachagua? What would you say? And one guy said, tell him to fight this battle to the end, to let justice run its course, let the proceedings, the cases run their course. And I think that is a good idea, even though we see that it's going to be quite hollow. But how the
Mm-hmm.
court behaves will tell us a lot. It will tell us that it is upholding the promise to protect, and the
Mm-hmm.
Constitution is the hope, because the institution of the judiciary is doing its work. And let's
Mm-hmm.
hope also that from this experience that the National Assembly will be aware that the Kenyans are becoming more and more aware of their duty to participate.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm not wrong, I believe there'll be some motions and a big push for a law to be passed on that. And I just want to encourage all Kenyans, please, this is where you can make us heard. This is where your voice can be heard through public participation. Participate, find out what laws are being passed in Parliament, to find out what they're discussing, like the issue of the extension of the presidential or the term of all these office bearers. Find out, because when we don't say anything, the courts are merely saying you're not entitled to get answers from everybody. It's just that people need to have participated. And you see, that's a very, very, very low standard. So Kenyans, let us vote, let us participate, read carefully to make sure that we are the watchdog. What we have learned from this process is that we cannot, that the Constitution is being weakened, undermined, because the institutions that we are supposed to be depending on are not operating the way they should. The National Assembly and the Senate under state capture. The executive has its own agendas. The judiciary is pandering to the whims of the executive. So this is why we get this absurd and this situation where there's a lot of dissatisfaction and concern. So please, Kenyans, make your voice heard, participate, don't be quiet, don't just complain, do something about it. Because our constitution is supposed to be our hope and promise. And one other thing that one of the advocates said about the conservatory orders and was that that the applications to lift them were perceived in some cases as an act of mischief. And that is how powerful those orders are, an act
Mm-hmm.
of mischief. But you see, in this case, the court said it was not an act of mischief. So have a lovely evening. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Yeah. Welcome. One more question from Wairimo. She says, just wondering how much the CJ's position affects the direction of the lower courts. Final question. How much does the Chief Justice's position affect the direction of the lower courts, like Court of Appeal, High Court, for example? Yeah.
Okay. The Chief Justice is the one
How
who's
much
the head of
influence
the
does she
judiciary.
have? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's the head of the judiciary. She's, in terms of power, you can say she's the most powerful judge. She has certain constitutional authority. She's the president of the Supreme Court. She is the chairperson of the Judicial Service Commission. She is the head of the judiciary. And you can see she has the Chief Justice and Deputy Chief Justice are the ones who swear in the president and the Deputy President. I'm sure one of them was there. I didn't watch, but I'm sure one of them was there. So the extent to which she can influence is perhaps from a legal standpoint, she sits on a bench like any other in the Supreme Court. She's not supposed to be influencing them. She's just the president of that Supreme Court. So when they're making decisions, she's supposed to just sit as a judge. But in those elevated positions, it's hard not to be influenced by somebody who has more authority than you do somewhere. So there's a big responsibility on the Chief Justice to be somebody of integrity. One of the concerns that were raised was that these days the judges in the Supreme Court seem to be writing one judgment. And before, if you checked from the earlier days, Mutunga's time and all, we'd have several judgments. Litigators, people who go to court, who argue cases, prefer those several judgments because then you can see what each judge is thinking. But when it's one judgment, and in fact, this has been the comment about the latest Supreme Court judgment, the one on the Finance Act of 2023, is like it was written, it's not coherent, it's not flowing, it's like they're different, cut and paste and something like that. The Chief Justice is, by virtue of the fact that she's the head of the judiciary, holds a lot of power, and she's actually that position is held by somebody. That's why they have bodyguards, because if just to secure the court, that position, because that is the judiciary is a separate arm of government. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. And thank you all again. Everybody's saying good night, good night, good night, good night. We have to wrap up and say good night now. So thank you very much all. It's been such a pleasure to have you on board here. You're all wonderful people. And we had some new people on board, and please invite your friends on here, because we'll be back on Monday. If I find time this weekend, I'd like to discuss a few things. I might come on board, but most likely we're just looking at Monday because we've got many other things to deal with right this weekend. Yeah, it's been very, very nice. I really have enjoyed these live shows, and I hope you're enjoying them and learning. Mohoho Francis, Kenya will one day, no. Mohoho Francis, welcome again, and everybody else. Yeah, I said Mohoho Francis. Why? Because he's new. He's one of the newer guys on here, although he's my Facebook friend. Mohoho, please ask all my Facebook friends to join the next time. And we have another person called Tunay Mohammed. Welcome, Tunay. Hi, I like that flag that you have on there. Jerry, welcome. And Fia, Wairimo. There's so many people who made comments in there. So just remember to thumbs up this video. Remember to thumbs up. Even afterwards, you can thumbs it up. That way we'll get promoted. So thank you so much, Susan, for your time. And it's over and out. We're ending the stream now. Have a good night or have a good day wherever you are. Take care of yourself. Nice weekend. Bye-bye.